Just making sure I've got the streaming working to report from Toranui and Vavau. 100% cloud cover. It looks like rain to the north with light easterlies. Well, think yourself lucky in comparison to here. Over.
Oh, wow. What's it doing down there? Another big system coming through, is it over?
Gales.
Well, we've got gales and torrential rain. I haven't even got the mail in from yesterday. It has just been pouring, and it's still pouring. Over. Yeah, he certainly won't. Well, he hopefully got the charts before all this started, but yep, Robert will certainly not be mowing lawns, and neither will Nari over here on the 2C2 grass as well. So, yeah, I imagine that the place is going to be flooded for quite some time with what we've had, Graham. But good morning to you, and good morning to everybody else. This is Gulf Harbour Radio ZMH 286, and Patricia and David are with you again today. There is absolutely no excuse for us to be anywhere else because it's just totally miserable out there. And I'm hoping that I have got the streaming, even though this doesn't look as if it says live. But hopefully someone will tell me on streaming that we are, in fact, broadcasting on to June the 21st, the shortest day. It will be incredibly short. There is absolutely no sign of any light at the moment. Probably won't be for a while, even depending on when the sun comes up, because it is so totally miserable, pouring with rain here. I suspect the same goes for Whangarei and north. 13 degrees, 1011.9. It's sort of oscillating a bit. And 12 knots here from the east, although we get a little bit protected from the east. There are sort of gale easterlies out to the sea there. So, oh, thank you, Off-Road Express. Mr. Mike down there telling me I am going out. It's just sort of twirling here. Always good to know. All right, there's a lot to cover today, and to save you folk that are waiting to go, we've got quite a few people who are going to be out there tomorrow. Right from Cosmo down there in Tauranga through to the north. There's about a dozen boats in the Whangarei Marsden area, and quite a few going to Vanuatu. Thank you for that, because David would otherwise might have neglected you. But yes, it's going to be quite an interesting, or shall we call it a race to Vanuatu? There's some interesting different boats, Full Circle, Sequoia, Erie 2 and Silhouette, all heading to Vanuatu. So they'll be able to keep in touch with each other. And so, yeah, quite a lot happening, so I don't want to delay it too long here this morning. It sounds like it's been a bit breezy in Tonga overnight, but it's calmed down a bit in New Caledonia. Sarani reporting 10 knots from the south-southwest, so I don't imagine anyone's going to be heading down to the lagoon this morning. Fluenta, good report here from you guys. They are at 2-3 south and 1-7, we'll call it 179 west. It wasn't too bad in the trough last night, some gusts, but nothing too much. Lots of heavy rain, just like we're experiencing here. They've got 11 knots from the southwest at the moment, 24 degrees, so damn sight better than us. And of course it's calm in Minerva, so a good place to be. It must not be high tide in Minerva. It sounds very nice up there on the coast of Espiritu Santo as well. Thanks, another adventure. Calm 20. Oh yes, it is beautiful in New Caledonia, and looking over David's shoulder to the satellite picture. And our boat from Samoa, Candy, is certainly very lucky that that system has just sort of disappeared and broken up. So that was good. Obsession reporting a bit of cloud cover where they are in the, I think they're in the Hawkeyes anyway, northeast 5. So not too bad there. And good news from Kindred Spirits, folks. They're the ones that got caught in the system going to New Caledonia. They've still got a bit of wind, 18 to 24 from the west, but they have only got 275 miles to go. And so, although the seas are lumpy and horrible, they are handling things very well. 2 metre swells actually, but very choppy and mucky. So they're weathered the storm, and will be very pleased to get to New Caledonia on the weekend. All right, sounds nice down in Falanga too. Thank you, Wilhelmine. And up, and up there near Taveuni, Messatroy have got it pretty decent as well, although there are thick layers to the southeast. We'll find out about those in a minute. I'll give a call shortly to get some of the boats that are on passage. I'm just looking for my piece of paper that had the news, because there is quite a bit of news today, and particularly for ukulele. Hope you're listening, Pavel. But you'll be pleased to know that Cape Town has had a very good pile of winter rain, just like here. I don't know where all this rain is coming from. So the dams that have been virtually empty and causing drought concerns in Cape Town, South Africa, have been topped off. They're now 38% full. So although the drought possibility is probably still there, it certainly has eased the situation in Cape Town. Canadians, they have approved cannabis for medicinal use in Canada. So
That's general use.
no, it's not general use yet. It's just for medicinal use. So you have to have a legitimate reason for needing it.
I need it.
All right. The big news is that the US has pulled out of the UN Human Rights Council. They maintain that their presence there gave legitimacy to this organization that includes states like the Congo and China and Cuba and Venezuela and various other places that don't have exactly a high human rights record, and so they just thought it was just a pretty stupid organization, which it is in fact. So they have pulled out. Can't blame them for that, and that's concerned things, although people maintain that it's better to be inside a ridiculous organisation than outside throwing rocks. But anyway, they've pulled out, saving their money, put it to more useful stuff.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Trump has announced a 6th branch of the military. And this is all pretty exciting for people. It is the Space Force. So some wonderful, exciting job opportunities for the very brainy, intelligent people of the electronics and engineering and scientific folk that we have there at NASA and various other places. It will be a separate outfit from the Air Force, separate and equal. So there it is, the 6th branch of the military in the US, which made me wonder who the others were, and 4 of them are very obvious. And I had to ask David for the 5th one. I wonder if you folk out there, even the Americans, might be scratching their head and counting their fingers as to what the previous 5 branches of the military are. So if you need any help with that, let me know. And moving on, this was a real surprise for us all. GE, General Electric, has been booted off the Dow. They've been there for 110 years. They were one of the original companies in the Dow, and they have been replaced by a Walgreens Boots company. They have, I didn't realize this, they have serious cash problems caused by a series of bad deals. They've replaced their CEO, they've slashed thousands of jobs. Just goes to show that there's not much money in light bulbs and jet engines these days. So there you are, GE. Poor old, who's it, Mr. Welch, who wrote lots of books on how to run a company. He'll be turning in his grave, except I don't think he's dead yet, is he?
Yeah, but I don't know if he is or not, but the GE jet engines, they're still viable.
Well, I guess they're not making enough money for the rest of the world, too much competition. All right, let's see if there's anybody out there. We've got a few people on passage. Eye Candy, Quintessa. Let's try for Eye Candy, Gulf Harbour. Well, it's sort of light, but I'm hoping that someone like Trevor might follow along. Go ahead, Andrew. Something's on. Did you leave the light on out here?
Yes. It doesn't do anything.
Okay, we have 280 miles to go, and that was about as much as I could confidently write down. Villamy, how did you go? Over?
Yeah, I got it all. degrees, 55 south, 158 degrees, 37 west, and of course the 490 degrees magnetic, goes to speed at 6.5 knots. They've got an east-southeast wind of 18, 2 metre southeasterly swell, and the last bit you've got 280 miles to go to Sorority.
Okay, we've got all of that. Thank you very much. And yep, sounds pretty sporty out there, but ripping along, so I'm sure they're not worried about that. And yes, that huge system that was up there is just sort of fallen apart. It's amazing how quickly things change in the old weather situation. And you are booming in from your beautiful, relaxing spot there in Whananga. Thank you for that. All right, Eye Candy, is there anything else from Eye Candy? Please call now. Yours, Trevor.
Yep, all on board, thanks, Patricia.
Thank you for that. All right. Yeah, it's just a bit light today, a bit of noise around, probably because of the weather around New Zealand. Okay, let's move on to, I'll just see where Avalon are. Avalon.
Patricia, this is Avalon. Do you copy of it?
Yes, I've got good copy on you. Carry on.
Good morning. We are now at 21°26 south, 17523 east. You copy of it?
Yes, very good. Carry on.
Okay, we're 100% cloud cover now, one rain, 10-50 knots from the southeast, with 10 on the barometer, and 230 miles to go to Fiji. Those 49 last night, over.
Yeah, some people are saying that it piped up a bit last night, but all sounds pretty normal now. 10 to 15 southeast at the 2126 and 17523 east position, although 100% cloud cover.
Frontal band runs
Oh
through.
yes, there's a frontal band. David's putting his pen right through it, so you'll probably have these conditions for the rest of the day by the look of it, but we'll wait and see what happens. Okay, so you've got light at the end of the tunnel as well, so that's good. All well on board, over?
Yeah, all well now. We, last night we must have come through the storm, we had that 45 knots gusting at one point. So all good this morning, over.
Yeah, it's always lovely when you're on watch in the middle of the night dealing with that, isn't it?
What was the direction of the
Yeah,
gust?
when you got the gusts, what was the direction, over?
Direction was southwest, over.
Okay, southwest gusts. Yeah, that'll be a challenge, wouldn't it? All right, thank you for that. Yeah, hopefully the boom was tied down well. All right, we will clear. David is interested in that. Well, it's his question, obviously, not mine. All right, let's move on. I've just got a position from Alcyon on their way to Suva. They're at about 1841 and 179 west with no wind up there. So that was all night since about 1 a.m. no wind and only 20% cloud cover. And so the front has yet to get to Alcyon. Well, yeah. Well,
Right
no, they're coming from Whananga. So, well, Ogier. All right, let's move on to see if we can find Alan heading to French Polynesia. Quintessa. Sleeping in at the moment. And we've got a few boats at Minerva, I think, although some of them might have been heading on today. But if there's anyone at Minerva, Cayenne, are you on frequency? Good morning, Hansa. What's it like at Minerva this morning? All right, yes, I think I just remembered somebody else called in from Minerva this morning, so sounds pretty pleasant. All right, and I've just had a flashing thing on my dashboard here to say Mr. Trump has relieved the pressure on the split-up families in Mexico-American border and signed something that enables them to all get back together again. So that's all very nice. He was dealing... Everyone's blaming Mr. Trump for this problem, but in fact it was set up by the previous administration. All right, so it sounds a bit cloudy in Minerva, but otherwise pretty flat and pleasant. All right, so we're getting closer to the weather, and I know there will be people hanging on this morning. We have got quite a few folk waiting to go there. Good morning to Scoots. They're going to be leaving for Fiji soon, and David will certainly be talking about that. I wonder if he's going to talk about the condition of the seas, because I'm sure they don't want to be dealing with what Kindred Spirit has been dealing with once the system goes through. They report that it's been blowing 25 to 30 knots up there for at least 24 hours. So it's exactly what we've been having here.
Yeah,
and yes, he's nodding sagely that he will talk about the seas as well. But I'm sure you're all wanting to get going. Is there anybody else wanting anything before I hand the microphone over? Well, good morning, David, on Sahula, and everything all fixed on board Sahula now, over?
Yes, all well. We're headed to Port Vila from Suva, and we're in position 18 degrees 23.4 south, 176 degrees 39.2 east. We're on a course of 26 with noise, very light noise, basically calm too, and we're measuring barometer 1010 and we've got 60% sail cover. Did you receive that?
Yeah, you're booming signal on 8 megs. It's fantastic. So Sahula clearing Fiji after their tumultuous arrival in Suva. So they're at 1823 and 17639 east with pretty calm, flat seas, 60% cloud cover, 1010, very light northeasterlies they are. So heading to Port Vila. All right, got all that. Good morning to you both. All right, clear with Sahula, and I will just see if Quintessa is on frequency. Yeah, pretty light, but I'll get Trevor to follow along with you as well. Alan, go ahead. Jeez.
What were we doing yesterday?
Your information, Patricia Elsie, on the leading back out to the outbreak.
Oh, thank you for that. Alan, we're going to probably wait for you after the weather because you're almost impossible for me to hear. So thank you for being there, but we will do the weather and then get back to you because I'm going to need a lot of help with your signal this morning. And Alcyon are not going to Suva. They're on their way back. They must have decided to stock up and return to Falanga. All right, thank you for that, Trevor. And I'm going to pass the microphone, folks, so that we can get organised on getting rid of these boats that are hanging around this torrential rain and wind. Here's David. Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, right now I'm going to get in my position and then I can get to
20.1 west. 3428.8 south, 16420.1 west. Am I correct?
Roger.
Excellent. And conditions?
Not too bad, but
what was that, Alan? Yeah, I'll get you just to say that once more, Alan, because it just, I'm not copying it clearly. Oh, a broken forestay. I see. Well, then in that case, you will want to get organised to try and deal with that.
As we said.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. Boy, that's going to get you busy today. So we'll leave you to go and deal with the broken forestay. What's the sea conditions like?
Unfortunately, not too bad.
Oh, that's all right. So not too bad sea conditions. Wind speed?
About 15, 7
Thank you for that. All right, I'll pop that in and let you get going to deal with that, Alan. So, broken force day. I'm sure you're ready, have got things available to deal with that. So we'll leave you to it and check with you. Well, come back if you do it over the course of the net, which I'm sure you won't. It'll be a big job, and then we'll check in with you again in the morning. All right, clear with Quintessa, and here's David.
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm sure everybody's waiting to hear about this. Our closed upper low that you all know about now is moving very slowly due east, with the upper ridge right behind it, still in the Tasman though. And by Saturday, the closed upper low opens up into a small left-leaning shortwave, while the ridge, very shallow ridge by the way, moves over New Zealand. The point of all of this is the upper levels are looking pretty good for a departure. However, last night and this morning, the weather is pretty bloody nasty. We've got gale warnings up and down the coast, Brett and Colville for sure, and our complex depression is playing havoc with northern New Zealand. In fact, the passage routes as well. Here in the New Zealand area, southeast 40 knots, 40. They have built up 5-meter seas out there. That's right, folks, 5 meters. So it is downright nasty out there, and hopefully everyone here in New Zealand is snug at the dock or at anchor somewhere and not moving around. Now, Friday, we can expect the wind to ease considerably. Later on Friday, we're looking at southerlies about 15 knots, 15 knots. So it's coming down quite rapidly. Now the sea eases a little bit, but we're still going to have a fairly heavy southeast swell that's going to be running. So it's not all peaches and cream. Saturday, however, it's looking like southerlies, fairly light air for Saturday. So departure Friday afternoon, Saturday is probably a better idea. Now by Monday, most of the yacht should be near 30 south, where we'll have southerly quadrant winds, fairly light, I would say about 10 to 15 knots. And by Wednesday of next week, the glow should be around 25 south. Those of you that leave Friday afternoon should be up there at about 25 south. And the latest projections are for trade winds, fresh trade winds. We're looking at southeast, give or take on that direction, and they'll be about 20 knots. And the reason for the strength is our high, which now is in the mid-Tasman, and that's going to have a central pressure of around 1032 millibar, 1032. So the wind direction then to all of the island groups is looking very good indeed. Now, backing up a little bit, Sunday, a couple of days from now, we've got another frontal band that's going to traverse New Zealand. Now, it may very well tickle 30 south on Monday. Remember, most of you will be around 30 south by then. However, doesn't look like much will come of it at 30 south. Now, the older model runs called for a small depression to form midway as well, but apart from a slight polar dip, so far not much looks like it's going to come of it. In other words, the most latest runs are not calling off a depression, just a polar dip. Now, in a polar dip, you are going to have convective activity, but not much of it from what I can see at this point. And the reason for that is we have a very, very strong ridge behind it that's going to be pushing this whole thing to the east. So that's very good news from what looked like a passage spoiler. It looks like that's not going to be the case. Now, looking at Friday morning, for those of you on the move, Minerva Reef is going to be looking pretty good with southeast winds about 15 to 20, favoring the high end of that scale. Those going to Tonga Tapu, well, you should be there by Friday, and you'll have southeast winds about 20 knots. And Anishem, for the mob that are going there, that looks pretty good as well, looking like southeast 20. And a couple of you are going to New Caledonia. That looks pretty darn good, east-southeast, about 20 knots. That's Friday morning of next week. Now, our high is going to remain in the Tasman, 1031, 1032 millibar, and a polar dip is going to occur up and down the Queensland coast. And that's going to cause an awful lot of convective activity along Queensland. None of it that I could see is going to affect this particular window. So that's good news. That is, unless you're going to Australia, in which case it will affect you. But if you're going anywhere from New Cal over to Tonga, anywhere in between, still looking good. All right, so in summary of all of this, I've gathered data from the 4 weather models that I trust, and this looks like your chance to finally leave New Zealand. Now, if nothing changes, it could be one of the better windows this season. And of course, I have to give you the caveat, things do change. This is because of a strong high that's going to be behind the push to get you up to the north. And strong highs always make me nervous. However, this one is not so strong as to trigger my warning bells at the moment. Now, again, things could change. Now, departure Friday looks to be a little bit sporty because of the seas, and the wind is still going to be up a bit Friday morning, but those leaving in the afternoon should have it a little bit better. Saturday, as I said, the winds ease even more. So if you left on Saturday, that could very well mean not using up all of your seasick bags on this trip, but be mindful of the heavy swell. And again, things can change. I hate to keep saying this, but I've seen it time and time again. So stay tuned to Gulf Harbor Radio, and we will be monitoring this. Believe me, we will. So we'll get to you as every morning, except for Sunday, and let you know what's going on. All right, let's look at the tropics now. Now, that mesoscale convective system of yesterday, that was a humdinger. It has fallen apart. The edges of it did cover much of Fiji yesterday afternoon, but the main part of it stayed to the north. However, let's not forget the frontal band and the troughs that are pushing up toward the islands and over the cruising routes. Some of you still on passage have encountered them last night, and well, they're there. Now, plenty of activity is basically running to the north between 175 and the date line. So if you're underway and you're between 175 and the date line, there's still residual troughs, residual cold front, so you're not totally out of the woods until you finally get up to your destinations. By lunch today, the cold front reaches Fiji. And actually, I've just updated the loop, and the front really has gotten there now. Satellite imagery is showing it over Kindavu, the southern Yasawas, and a little bit of Viti Levu. Anyway, that front continues on to the northwest. And we have a trough, a pretty weak trough, is running also through much of middle and southern Vanuatu. And Tonga Tapu is actually being affected by the cold front as well. Now, as I said, the mesoscale system has broken up, but what it leaves in its wake is a bit of a trough. And that trough is affecting the top of Vavau, Niue, affects Samoa as well. So back to Tonga. We'll take a look at Tonga in more detail. The Niue Samoa trough, if you will, as I said, the southern edge is very, very close to Vavau. And as Graham has pointed out, there has been rain up there and cloud, obviously, so it's all due to that. I was thinking most of it is going to stay to the north today, but obviously quite a bit of it is snuffed south to affect Vavau. Now, Tongatapu certainly has the cloud and the probable showers from the cold front coming down from New Zealand, coming up from New Zealand. The Hapais at 5 a.m. just had scattered cloud. Now the airport conditions, Vavau northeast 10 knots, scattered to broken, and the barometer 1013. The Hapais easterly 7 to 10, scattered cloud, barometer 1013 as well. Tongatapu northeast 5 and scattered to broken, barometer 1014. So my wind forecast for lunch today looks like northeast 15 to 20, backing to northerlies by this evening. And Friday, expect to shift to the northwest and then maybe the west about 10 to 15. Now, those of you that are getting GRIBs will probably think differently. The GFS, as an example, for Friday is looking at southerlies. Now, I do not use the normal global models when I give my wind forecasting for the islands. Again, I use a mix of the French modeling and just my own sort of blend, if you will, from what some of the others are saying. So that's the reason for the difference. So either case, whether it's northwest or west or it becomes south, it is quite a bit of a shift. So watch out where you're anchored, as this wind may very well put you on a lee shore, or you may have a very close encounter with your neighbor. Okay, we've covered the cloud for Fiji earlier. Most of the radars are out, unfortunately, in Fiji. I have no idea what they do with their money for the Met Service there. It's really a pity that they can't get these things working. It's quite irritating, really, because I rely on that radar considerably. I use satellite imagery all the time, backing it up with radar, and then when I can get the swath from the microwave, I use that. Not having the radar is most annoying. Anyhow, the winds do look to be fairly light this morning, mostly northerly quadrant in open waters, but shifting to southerly quadrant by dinner. Muscat may see light southwest breezes, so that's a bit different from Muscat. And you'll have to call for details. The wind is all over the place there in Fiji. So if you want more data, when I'm done, give us a call and I can get into it a little bit more. Friday sees southerly quadrant. Looks like mostly south-southeast for Friday. So that's Fiji. Vanuatu, they're under a dissipating trough. Band organization is pretty visible on satellite in the southern half, but fine in the northern half. So it looks pretty bright and sunny up in the banks and the Torres. South to probably Mayo and all the other islands up there looks pretty good. Winds by lunch today, southerly quadrant in the 15 knot range. By later tonight in the north, we may see 20 knots or so. And tomorrow, south-southeast, about 15 to 20, and pretty much that way the whole day. And New Caledonia finally looks pretty good. Mostly sunny, save for a few scattered clouds about. Winds in the southern lagoon, I believe south-southwest, about 8 to 10. Friday, we're looking at south-southwest, but now about 15, and slowly back into the south-southeast later in the day. And on Saturday, southeasterlies, about 10 to 15. So that's it from me. I guess most of you that are hearing us on streaming here in New Zealand are getting ready to go, and I wish you a lot of luck on that. Tomorrow, being Friday, we'll have a much better feeling for what's going on. So stay tuned tomorrow morning, and we'll update everything that I've just given you to see it's remaining consistent. But at the moment, it looks good for you folks to get out of there, which is pretty good since Patricia's going to be gone for July, and we'll go from there. So, any questions or comments? Here's the chief.
All right, Golf Harbour Radio listening, and haven't seen anything come in except one of our scoots, in fact, wants to know if David has a rule of thumb for how quickly or how longly it takes for seas to go down after. It has been blowing like snot here for a good 24 hours. We know that seas can come up very quickly. What's your ideas of how long it will take for these seas? Because it's always horrible to start a passage with seas that are very uncomfortable after you've been sitting at a marina or on an anchor for a while and your stomach hasn't been moving around. I know I wouldn't like to be heading out there today, and in fact I would probably be one of the ones waiting till Saturday, but any ideas? He's just going to have a look at something on there. But a rule of thumb, you don't need to look at anything. If it was chameleon, what would you be thinking about?
Yeah, well, the seas come down quite quickly when the wind drops, but it's the swell that's going to be fairly large, and that does take a while to come down. The complex depression that's causing the big swell is moving east, so those big swells are going to be slowly diminishing as this low traverses in the direction of French Polynesia. So I would say it's just going to be over a couple of days. It certainly isn't going to be 5 meters on Saturday. And I can get a better feel for that. I'll have to give you a report on tomorrow, Friday.
Rule of thumb.
There is no real rule of thumb on how fast they come down. It's all a function of how quickly that low moves out of the way, and that's going to be a couple of days. So you'll just notice a very slow decrease. But the good news is the swell is all in the right direction. It's coming from the southeast. So if anything, it's just going to give you well, the wind's behind you. It kind of throws the back end of the boat around a bit, I know. But apart from that, there is no rule of thumb that I know of.
All right. Anybody with any questions or needing any more clarification for the weather where you are, please call. Oh, tranquil and peaceful and quiet, except if you look out the window here where it's 100% grey on our shortest day of the year. Fortunately, we don't have to go out anywhere. Well, maybe to the mailbox, but I'm sure there's nothing very exciting there except bills, and it is still raining here. All right. Have a good day, everybody, and thank you, Trevor, for the relays. Much appreciated having a good signal from halfway up there. So we'll be back again tomorrow morning, everybody. Same time, same place. Have a good day. This is Golf Harbour Radio, and we're clear. I hope poor old Alan gets to the stream.
This was good.
No.